Hi again. Um, Another random video tonight. I was gonna start off with the reading this, but I'm gonna start off with a random if I get one. Got this one. I think it's Haggis or Hail. Random rune. Haggis or Hail. Where is it? Hagalaz indicates you require protection against unexpected delays and problems, and you may need to reevaluate your goals in life. It's interesting. Something needs protection, thinks it's better, or thinks something is below it, but they're in fact not. These beings could be going in front of something, switching out their beauty or their looks, making something look like them, making something look like someone else. And the reason they're doing this is not because they're more important, because they're trying to literally pretend to be this being. The reason I say that is because of something I've written in this to do with something else. Someone's like, I'm important, I'm above you, this or that, and then they're literally just seen like using weird invisibility or this or that to stand in front of someone and make it look like it's someone else or them, trying to steal this, trying to maybe even steal their videos. Just in relation to something else I've said in this is why I'm saying it like that and with that theory, which is kind of interesting. So one of the main points, like the other point that I was saying that for, comes later, like the end of this page, but lightness and darkness, not necessarily meaning good and evil, but balance and like two sides of the same thing or being, because like they're both shade, they're both shades. Light and darkness both represent shade, so they're two sides of a shade of the same shade. Light means daytime, night means darkness, and like I have this personal theory, right? If the devil were to have fallen and he was the light bearer, is that why people get sunburnt? Whereas nighttime, we heal in the nighttime, and we take shelter even in the shadows from like the light, which is kind of interesting. But some people are kind of like blind in the dark unless they have something, which is kind of interesting. It kind of represents balance and duality. In its origins, light and darkness never represented good and evil. So I don't see why they necessarily had to mean anything. Like, in fact, God, in certain versions of the Bible, God is depicted as when he finds like the good witches and one of three and the three ones he likes. He gives one darkness and one shadows, which is interesting. Which is on to my next point to do with glowing and shadows. Like you see the yin yang, right? You've got the light and the darkness and darkness and the light, and if it's depicted as good and evil, it can be taken as there is good and evil and good. I think I put this in a video before, but it might have been one of the ones that disappeared off my laptop and YouTube. There was like 10. Um, and who's to say, like the darkness and light doesn't represent shadows because shadows guide us hard, like can shield us from the harsh burn of the light, and shadows cannot be cast without light being present to an object. And glow is the other side of that because glow is like the dark light within the darkness because without you've put a torch in the light and there is no like light coming from that unless there is darkness to show, or like glowing mushrooms or glowing fish don't glow without darkness. Even like you've got the lights on right now because it's night outside. Um, that doesn't happen. Like the glow of the artificial light doesn't happen unless it's nighttime. So who says darkness doesn't represent being sheltered from evil? Like the nighttime or the darkness doesn't represent being sheltered or hidden from like the judgment or the evil of the devil and this or that, which is kind of interesting because if he fell and then his element fell with him, but then again, there's still other angels as light. It also says apparently the devil parades around and masquerades as an angel of light, as I've heard lately, but I'm not sure because I haven't really heard that in the Bible because As far as I know, he parades around saying, "Oh, darkness, hell is a dark place where the sun don't shine." And if he was a being or an angel of light, why would he parade around saying, "Somewhere the sun don't shine, this dark place is hell, blah blah blah"? But he was light, and if that was so, why would hell be bathed in darkness? Where we wouldn't get burned by light, would hell not be bathed in sunlight and light? Where we would constantly be getting like sunburned from it because humans have sunscreen because humans get sunburn um more in some countries than others, which I think is kind of interesting. Which kind of reminds me of my sister's theory on yin and yang. She thought that yin and yang were siblings, and that the sister was actually quite evil and very evil, and she switched like the light and darkness with her brother, so that they would think like that one was good and one was evil, when it was not, and they switched it, and that the sister was all evil and manipulative. But I don't know if that's all true or if it's just relevant to a situation, because obviously I don't know the real yin and yang, which is kind of interesting. Which brings me back to a dream I had as a child about the spirit of harmony. Harmony kind of represents like balance or love or balancing with each other, which is also kind of like one of the points of the yin yang, which is like uh there was in this dream there was like a brother and a sister, and they were creating like the sister wanted her thing and they wanted a thing, and the brother had like made these days or these parades for the schools before, and there was like these people who were trying to sell their flowers because they wanted these flowers to be known because it meant something to them, and it was like someone of their family died and they love those flowers and they wanted to represent that. So there's this brother, he wanted to make a day where everyone loved and cared for each other, a day where everyone would respect each other as equals and equality. So he started Harmony Day, um, and spread around Harmony Day. And the spirit of Harmony Day and the thought or the feelings of Harmony Day and the spirit of harmony and Harmony Day. And the sister wanted it for herself, so she got angry and then she tricked him and she was like, "Come to the balcony, stand here because there's going to be like a parade for your Harmony Day. It's going to start, and everyone will listen to you and hear you. So stand on the balcony here." And then she pushed her brother off of the balcony at the school, and they fell and they died. Where they were reborn as the spirit of harmony until someone like was able to take their place, and they said, "Come into human form and come like be spirit in human form, be spirit in human form." And so they did, and they stepped down from the place and came to here, which means the sister was she was kind of like chaos, like this big evil being, and he was harmony because harmony and chaos kind of like go together, which is interesting. Yeah, and that was like this story in my head when I first got Harmony Day and touched something. It was like the story of Harmony Day I thought also of when I was a child. Like I just kind of like saw it in my head, which was possibly a delusion, but I don't know. I've seen things come into fruition in real life before, so wouldn't surprise me it could be. Um, yeah. Which reminds me of my theory of clouds. Like, I'm not talking about drugs. I would always say I love clouds and I have an obsession with clouds. I was never talking about drugs because I didn't even at first realize it meant drugs. Like, I see, how we have the clouds in the sky that we take for granted? Um, I see the clouds in the sky as kind of like something we are so lucky and blessed to have, because clouds are kind of like this big blessing we overlook every day and we take for granted. But how beautiful and how pretty are they really? And when you think about it, it's like the Earth has the perfect temperature and conditions to create this thing that helps us sustain life. It blocks out the sun, it can increase fertility and refresh the earth and spread waters and like water the plants and the earth for us. It's kind of like a combination of all the four elements, Um, the earth helps give it shape, the wind helps it take shape and spread it and guide it and show it where it needs to go. Um, the fire kind of like heats it and allows it get to the form it needs, and um, the water obviously makes it up at its core basis level, which is kind of interesting. And it's kind of a beautiful thing. It's kind of like I have this personal theory: water People think water occupies a space, but if Earth represents space and occupies space, right? Then why can't we just physically pick water up if it occupies a space? Who's to say water doesn't actually occupy a time, not a space, and it's just affected by gravity, which would mean space, like outer space where we travel is just kind of like a different version of water. That's why we can't step outside. It's kind of like reverse water, which is interesting, an interesting theory. Um, and then like air and wind represents positive energy and adding to thing, it adds to water, it gives life, it represents life. And fire represents the destruction, negative energy. Um, you know, which is kind of interesting. It takes the positive energy of wind and makes itself more. It can kind of like destroys water, but water represents time, so it just appears in a different form when it's destroyed. And fire destroys space, destroys like the earth, which represents space, which is interesting. And I think energy is in all of these things. Like all of these things have their own form of energy. So energy or emotions or life is just represents the last one, which I think is kind of interesting. When you think about it, trees themselves are kind of like a combination of earth and water. Like in this dream I had as a child about the earth and to do with the clouds as well and the water. There was like this being whose mother was Mother Nature and whose auntie was Ocean or Oceanus. She was interesting. Um, yeah, it was kind of interesting. There was there and they wanted to visit their auntie because they found out they had one and they couldn't go there at first and they almost died and then they invented swimming and they like made a treaty between their aunties who were friends back then and then they ended up arguing because they hated each other sometimes and like when they went into the water it kind of like was part of less like life sprouting as well together and she already had her life forms and they already had their life forms obviously and then when they came back onto which kind of like was kind of like something about like the sand or certain corals or different things in the earth or like I can't remember what it was with the ocean but it might have been like part of the sand forming and they kind of like went back onto the land and that's when like the trees and the grass and all that formed which also kind of helped sustain and grow life and helped bring life which was an interesting thing and like an interesting theory because when you think about it earth and water combined together kind of as like a fusion kind of make plants, which was kind of interesting as a dream, obviously just a dream. And then they kind of started to hate each other and fight each other, but then um like the auntie and the mother, but then they swapped energy with their cousin as well, so they have water energy. Um, and then they went to the ocean again to see their auntie and they were trying to make this peace treaty and they end up making like a peace treaty which is like I think this was when like certain of the coral because it was sand the first time and then the coral and all these things came out of the treaty when she accepted her half of the treaty, which was like the earth and when some of the islands formed as well and then they went to the land again and when she accepted the treaty because like the trees were starting to die whenever the treaty was gone, but then like the trees could also sustain themselves. Something else about this dream later, and that was when the rivers formed, because that was the rivers coming onto the earth as part of like the ocean and land coming together, as kind of like the part of the mother and the auntie being friends and working with each other, which was interesting. Which is when the rivers are formed as part of this treaty for this person, which was interesting. Um, this person in the dream before they had gone into the water had also helped invent healing because someone was trying to start wars and they were like hurting the people and cutting them into pieces and no one died before this but like pain had been invented so all these people were constantly in agony and they're like I just want it to be over which was when death was brought about or came into existence, which was a form of mercy or peace, so that people didn't have to suffer forever, being cut into pieces. And Mother Nature and her son, this person in the dream, they went and worked together. And this is not a blonde guy who pretends to be that, who is a demon, by the way, which is something I got told about to do with this. Um, they created healing together. Like this child was also the embodiment of healing because they created healing together in order to put these people together, which is like they use their energy and they spread it out through all beings and all these people in existence, and they invented healing so that everything heals. But because there's so many of them, they do heal at like at a certain slower rate, which is kind of interesting. It's all shared amongst these people, which is interesting. I'm not saying these people in the extreme world should turn on each other so they heal faster, because then what would life be worth? But yeah, it's interesting, interesting dream. Which is also interesting because centuries later, in this dream, like centuries later, there was an evil, wicked witch, and she wanted people to fear her and respect her and to be more powerful, and she couldn't be. So she stole the pollen from a pollen bearer because at this point in time, pollen was a thing, yes, but trees didn't need a climate or an ecosystem to survive. They just popped up where they popped up, and they supported life and they sustained life. And people were like, whoa! So she wanted people to fear her, so she like no one would fear her or respect her. So she stole the pollen, and she cursed the pollen so that like the all the plant life and the trees would die in her attempt to wipe out existence. And when she tried to wipe out existence, like the plants were dying, people were dying. So this child who was like the rivers and the coral, well, not exactly the rivers and the coral, but they made the treaty, who was like an embodiment of life, came together with an angel and a witch and someone else as well. And in this dream, there was someone from the future who was learned how to time travel or had time travel from somewhere, who had a purple shirt on and had been eating out of a salad bowl Tupperware container. Who in this dream, funny enough, left it behind, and there ended up being a whole ass religion based off of this Tupperware container she left behind, like this magical invisible shield magic, which was interesting because no one knew what it was, and like it was studied and worshipped for centuries. Um, and it was like someone's cousin. It was like this like person who helped do this thing. It was their cousin from the future, um, which was interesting. And yeah, so they came together. And I should probably explain a little bit more about this dream because in this dream before this, this guy, I think to be Mother Nature's child that made him an angel as well in order to create all this. And previously this god had given him, like God liked him. He knew God. God was related to him, so he gave them a piece of creation and creation energy. And when he gave them this piece of creation energy, he was like, create something. So they created cool temperatures and cold. But he had this friend who turned out to be a little bit of a sociopath that he trusted. And she was like, "Can I have it? Can I try it?" So he was like, "Well, I don't see any harm in it." So he let her have it and try it. But then she tried to overpower her and be the most powerful thing, and she like turned on humanity very quickly, and she plunged the Earth into an ice age, which was where the ice age came from because she was trying to destroy Earth, and she plunged it into an ice age. Her name started with an A. Like a lot of people do respect and worship this name in certain cultures now. Her name started with A, and she tried to destroy the Earth with Ice Age by engulfing the Earth Ice Age and blah blah blah. So she put the Earth in an Ice Age and nearly killed it. So then he was like, "Oh my God, what do I do?" So he took the piece of creation he had and he created warmth because he had created like cool, which he used to create cold, and he created warmth and he matched her with it. Didn't do any more or less. He just matched her with it, and then it was evened out, and she was just sitting there not doing anything, just doing these weird movements with her body, not doing anything, like looking like she was spazzing out basically. um and yeah, so she was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm better now," and he wasn't sure if he could trust her. And he was like, "Oh, can I have that?" And he was like, "Well, um I guess we can switch and I'll have that back." So we switched, and then she tried to do the same thing with fire, so they canceled each other out. And then she was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, blah blah," but they weren't sure if they could trust her. But he stood near her, and then she went to like the underworld and these demonic beings. And she had them form two demonic daggers. One of them is like a purple light that lets them teleport, and one is like a white light. And the reason for that is because she took the two daggers and she forged them in the underworld and the demon world. And when he had his back turned, she snuck up on him and she stabbed him with these two daggers. And in one of the daggers, she held his light or his grace, and in the other one lies his creation power or the piece of creation that was stolen from him. And she used this to like go and get people to worship her and all these things, but she was secretly kind of evil as shit and vengeful, and she was actually like the older original one of these beings and these groups of beings. And she had all these other people that she made and gave powers to from the daggers, which was kind of interesting. Um, yeah. And so anyway, later, like a couple of centuries later, I don't know if she ends up being good now. Like she was actually a lesbian apparently, but then stories say her to not be allegedly lesbian because she was in love with someone. And that was like lying about it made it punishable, and punishment for it. But if they hadn't lied, then it would be all good and okay. And centuries later, when the pollen was cursed, they came together and like they used the energy they had with their auntie and their mother, and they like uh took the wind because wind was a thing. I can't remember where wind came from, but it was a part of it, and they used the wind and they lifted it off the waters into the sky, off the trees, and combined the energy. And they added like the temperatures that they had, which is why temperature affects weather now as well. And they used this to create like a form of blessing to came together with all the four elements, like made it roll off of the oceans, guided by into the trees, coming back together with the temperatures and them and the life magic in between. And that was when the clouds formed, and they created clouds, and clouds themselves were a form of blessing that was overlooked or a blessing in disguise. And they used these clouds. They weren't able to destroy the curses that this witch put on the pollen. If they did, then like the weather would just be a thing of luxury and good, and it would just be for prettiness and this or that. And they um they used it to like sprinkle the earth or shower the earth in blessed rain and restoring rain and revitalizing rain so that the plants started to grow again and people managed to get alive or come back like closer to life and have an easier life again. From this, there was like a witch whose name also started with an A, but it was a different one. I think her name was actually Agatha, funny enough, like in the Marvel comics. But it's weird because she's evil in that one, so it's probably not the same one. There's probably a lot of witch people with that name in traditions and shit. Um, or perhaps she wasn't the witch. But anyway, um, yeah, and they created the blessings and then they spread the blessings on the earth, which is in this story though, this dream I had, it's the reason why plants need a temperature to grow and why it changes is because like they need a certain climate which comes from the temperature in the atmosphere and the blessings of clouds, because the temperature and the life he made created sustains it. So the reason they grow in certain climates is because of the curses adapting to like the climates to fight it by like if that had been the cold had originally like sustained it from the cold side of the blessings and magic he had created, then it would like she cursed would curse it so it grew to need a warmer climate, so that they switched and changed it around so it needed a warmer climate to survive. Um, that's also like the clouds also block out the harsh sunlight that could destroy it as well sometimes, but the sunlight's also needed to sustain it somehow apparently, which I don't get, which is kind of interesting. And that's why it needs like the rain and the water and all of this to sustain it, because the like the plants by themselves in this dream didn't actually need like rain or climate to survive it or keep it alive. They just kind of were. But as long as the curse is around, the curse lingers, then the climate and stuff like that, and the healing and the climate and the life and the temperature and this or that is needed to do that to sustain life, which I thought was interesting. It was a very interesting dream. I don't think it comes from anywhere. It's obviously just a dream. I'm going to look into the symbology of that dream, but I think it's kind of interesting. And then this person, like centuries later in the modern day, ends up just casually meeting someone who looks like this person, which I thought was interesting. But like it was pretty obvious it wasn't actually them, which was interesting. But yeah, that kind of comes from my even without this dream, I believe clouds to be kind of like a form of blessing on life. It's like a blessing, a beautiful blessing in disguise. We overlook clouds and how much they do for us and how beautiful they are, and that we're lucky to have them on this planet. And they're kind of like blessings, a combination of the four elements, and I fucking love clouds. Which reminds me of in this thing, some people would know that they're the child of nature, or some people would know they're an angel, or some people would know that Mother Nature is an angel, or this or that or certain. situations or depictions to do with that, which makes me wonder why in the modern day and age is Mother Nature depicted as having the climate or weather control powers. It's which makes the dream obviously inaccurate because it's not like she turned on her son or anything, because that wouldn't make any sense, because in this dream, centuries later, she wouldn't have stolen it unless he gave it to her to let her do it while he lived a human life, or she wanted to do it, so like he let her try it. Because in this dream, they also like there was the show, the modern day show Digimon and stuff, and there was like the Pikamono beings, like that water guy who turns into a water wolf. One of like the main character ones, the water one, like the little one that turns into the ice water wolf thing. Um, they went together to create some of those, but a nature type one of those with green eyes. Like they gave them green eyes and they created like nature type one of those, which was their creation together. And then there's a blonde guy that she later explained to him was actually a demon from a bar who was an asshole, and not like because an asshole flashed in front of someone, but like an actual asshole. This blonde guy who took on a similar name, who was a demon, who was from another dream where he stole someone who could fly as a child's wings away and threatened to kill his own child, who would go to nothingness and die one day. So they had to let them cut the wings off, and then they cursed them so their scars disappear and show. Um, was there he kind of pretended they were his, and he would pretend to be Mother Nature's son a bunch of different times as well in the past, whether or not they were doing it now in the dream, which I thought was interesting. I forgot the point of the last thing I said, but yeah, some people would just know. Um, which brings me to another theory. If someone ever comes up to you and says, "How do you think you pronounce this word?" and it's a bunch of different words, but it's in another language, but for some reason the letters are especially in a language you can pronounce, and they're like, "How do you pronounce this?" Don't say it. They could be tricking you into giving them your life or your power, or to making a deal, or to accepting something or selling yourself. If they say, "How do you think you pronounce this?" Don't do this. They could be recording you, they could be getting you to say some spell or doing this or that. I honestly wouldn't do it. Or even something my ex tried to do with me. My ex tried to do that to me before as well. Something else my ex tried to do with me, was he was like, "Oh, can you show me what your signature looks like?" I feel like, "Show me what your signature looks like on a piece of paper." Don't do it, because some of these people will be like, "Show me what your signature looks like," and then it'll be on a piece of paper, and then they'll like have the piece of paper and they'll fold it out, and it'll look like just a square piece of paper, but they've actually got a folded piece of paper, and they're getting you to sign your name on something. Like I avoided this and stopped this. I was like, no, that's not legit. That's not real. And then they also tried to like do this weird thing with white-handled knives with symbols in them, trying to cut me. And then they also tried to force me into wedlock and all this weird shit. They tried to like fake that I was dead at one point, force me into wedlock. They tried to steal powers I imaginarily didn't know I had. They tried to summon like mind demons and demons of chaos and all this bullshit. Um, blah blah blah. I forgot the other point of what I was saying then. Wedlock. Oh yes, they also at a certain point in my life I was getting sick a lot, so I went to the doctors, and then mail showed up in my name and they stole it and they said it was nothing. And then I literally saw them. I can't remember what the illness was, but I saw them cutting out their name and pasting it on the illness thing that says mine. They also caught an STD, but I got myself tested when I found that out and I did not have the STD, so I was fucking lucky it wasn't the STD. But my ex was blatantly pretending. They were also got an ID card in my name and pasted their picture on top of it too. And they also were pretending to have an illness or a sickness that I had as well so that they could get off work and stuff like that. Like, my mother has done that to me before as well, I know. It sucks, but anyway. Which reminds me to this is from a video I saw before. This was also from that Twiki lady, I think, but, uh, um, doors opening, um, for signs and signs and intuition, which is interesting because sometimes in life people have said, "I'm a pervert or an asshole" before opening the door, but sometimes when you walk, doors just open on their own. You're nowhere near the doors. Like if the doors open, you put your hands out and you're like, "Well, I was nowhere near that." Doors opening on their own. Sometimes it shows you bad things and situations happening too. It kind of freaks me out if sometimes I'm walking past a random house and I look and the door to the house just opens on its own. I'm like, fuck, should I check inside and see if there's some weird ass shit going on? But I'm like, I don't want to do no trespassing. But in the past, when the door has opened itself and I haven't looked in there, I've regretted not looking in there because a bad situation's going on, like something's trying to show me something. Certain signs could lead to things as well, and intuitions. Kind of like seeing shit in your head, man. Like, some people say it's psychotic or psychosis or schizophrenia or this or that, right? But what if you see something in your head and you've been taught about manifesting and how to not manifest, and that it's not manifestation, like some evil beings will do because they don't possess abilities of foresight or something like that naturally. Um, and like it ends up happening. Like, this is a horrible situation that happened, but like in my head, I saw like someone I knew passing after like three particular visions. Well, there was four actually. One was um like the I live with someone. One was a picture, like an image of my head of their bird dying, and someone in leather gloves. Someone had leather gloves, and they had like strangled and twisted their bird. And then a couple of months later, their bird showed up strangled and twisted. And the next one of them dying, but I wasn't sure how it happened. And then they ended up passing, and when I found them, they looked pretty much the same as when I found them, only it was in a different location. And like they had a haircut instead of looking like that, or something like that. Um, which was interesting. And then the next one was of someone else, and I don't think this was really supposed to happen at all. Um, but yeah, it could be this person in leather gloves trying to keep themselves alive as well because that person had passed their expiration date as well, or because they're awkward, or because they're jealous of something, or this or that as well, which is kind of interesting and scary too. Which is interesting. Like sometimes I've seen things even when I was a child, like deja vu things, seeing them before they happen and finding things before they happen is interesting. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Interesting theories and stuff. Finding things before it happened. Finding things before it happened. Um, yeah, and in this situation, I just forgot about this. God, I hope there's no psychologist that can hypnotize people with their mind. But probably nothing like that. That's a crazy psychotic theory that someone had when I was younger that they told me that certain psychologists can because they're energy vampires. But which leads me to led me to one day a psychologist left an article that I found about psychologists actually being energy vampires who are specifically just jealous and out to ruin your life. And I was like, well, fuck, man, why the fuck would who gives a shit that much? Just deal with it. Um, anyway, yeah, some psychologists suck. Like, had I have believed in myself and not got called crazy or made to think I was crazy and locked up for like a year to a year and a half because I told them that I had trauma in the past where someone attacked them, I didn't even tell them about seeing things before it happened or anything. But like told them about the spiritual stuff and they tried to make me feel crazy and they said spiritual stuff doesn't exist. You need to be locked up because you believe in spiritual stuff and religion. Um, because I had spiritual delusions, and apparently that makes me crazy because we're not allowed to believe in spiritual stuff in the modern day and age, or we get locked up for a year, 2 years. Um, if had they have told me of this, I could have found certain situations to do with teenagers and children going through things earlier, like years 2 to 3 years earlier before I found it, or even earlier than that. Because I did find evidence of this in the real world and solid evidence in the real life. I could have found that years earlier. And like I could have even prevented certain situations and certain people would have still been here if it wasn't for these psychologists. And it makes me scared that the psychologists secretly are evil psychic bitches, but probably not. I don't think so. I really doubt that. Not like the psychologist Lady Linda is an evil faced demon whore lady. Or there's one wearing her face the whole time. But, I think the fact that she was named that is honestly just a coincidence, or they chose to take on that name because they identified as something, and they could have been satanic people trying to be something, and maybe they stole someone else's face first. I don't know, but them stealing a face is just a delusion joke because I saw something on The Simpsons and I was like, wow, that's kind of weird. And I started making jokes about it. But yeah, it's interesting. It was a little bit scary, but anyway, kind of like the situation of things not being as they should, or appearing differently, or changing too quickly. too noticeably quickly, too quickly to be what they should be. Kind of like even someone's hair color changing. Like, why does a hair go white or lighter all of a sudden when it shouldn't? It's kind of interesting. Or like someone, it could be water weight or because someone's eaten, but if someone hasn't eaten in a day and they've just been exercising and all of a sudden they seem to go twice the same size, in like their stomach was like looked like it was bulging out a little bit, but it was all solid, and then all of a sudden like they get fucking two times that in flubby pokey fat and something. And it's like, how did that happen within 2 hours of waking up when I haven't eaten yet? You know what I mean? It's interesting. It's all relative in perspective. And like, some people don't know this, some people do know this, some people know what they're doing, some people are jealous and want to know what they're doing. And then some people just don't know what kind of forces they're fucking with and who actually knows those forces. It's kind of interesting in perspective. Just like my experience of silver or doing silver, like doing silver with my mind, not like a weird code way. I'm talking about like in this situation, there were people trying to be rapists in rapey situations and rape and murder and drown. And I managed to avoid these psychotic, fucking possibly demon related people, and I avoided this in this situation. This was before something, and I avoided these people in this situation and shit to do with this, and I hadn't got raped in like 3 days or anything, and I was getting stronger again and abilities and blah blah blah. Like not abilities, but like my ability to move properly without being assaulted. And one of them came at me, and I went like this, and I goes kind of like did this thing, and I was like that, and then like these little specks of silver. Like this is obviously delusion from psychosis. It has to be explained as some kind of psychotic delusion. But I made silver with my mind, and it burnt their fucking faces. And then one of the people that got burnt by it, like it didn't go away for them, and they claimed they had psoriasis, and then it was clearing up naturally, which was lucky for psoriasis. But actually, they were murdering rapists that stole $25,000 from their employer annually, and I made silver with my mind that left them like injured for a couple of months. And I was like, well, fuck. That is a strong delusion. That person didn't have psoriasis. They didn't try to rape me, and I avoided being raped and accidentally made silver with my mind and burnt them, which was kind of interesting. Which also reminds me of my other. Well, they were never really my friend. I just trusted them straight the fuck away, and I knew there was something off about them. Um, but this person I lived with, who is Lana, let's call them fucking Sultana, because it looked like something that like gets stuck in your shit on the way out. Um, I'm not. I don't want to say that because I knew someone else whose name sounds like that, and I really like that person. Um, Lana, this person, they claim they stole a psychic's powers, which I'm like, how stupid could you even be? If someone's actually psychic and they're naturally born psychic, the only reason they would let someone actually steal their power would be so they can find all the other people involved in the situation and everyone else that would be a threat to these people so they can have a relaxing 10 or 20 years. Which is why one of them will be asked to let them take it, or so they can make an example out of this person one day, which is kind of interesting. This person, Lana, they also claimed to steal the healer's power, which was me in this sense of the word, because like they were like, heal me, I'm sick, I can't even go to sleep, I can't do this, I can't do that, I'm sick, please. And I was like, no, I don't trust you. I have a bad feeling about this. You've done all these horrible things to me and you're a bad person. And they're like, I'm changed, please heal me. I was like, no, I have a bad feeling and I don't want to do it. And then they're like, I have a child. Please, what if I don't see my child? What if I get sick? What if it passes on to my child? I have a child, please. And they used to having a child in order to like make me feel bad. So then I used this energy of healing on them and I healed them. And it was like this weird thing where the energy pulled out of them and I felt it like ripping from my fucking chest and it hurt me and I like passed out and blacked out and I worked up to heal them on the phone like, oh, you know that healer I told you about? I actually stole that power. And I walked up to them and I was like, what the fuck? I kind of had a cracked face. And then they looked at me and they shit themselves and they screamed like, ah, what the fuck? How is it even possible? Like they were surprised that I woke up. Pretty sure they assaulted me when they stole it. Maybe they assaulted me and that's what that was. It was kind of interesting. Like they were scared as shit for some reason that I woke up and yes and called them on the phone saying they stole the healer's power, Which is like that bitch goes to black magic to steal and this or that and jealousy. They probably gonna try to curse people to be ugly because I'm sorry, like not being rude, but they were like a fugly bitch, and I say that because of their personality, not because they had the ugly bitch face. It's one of the only people, one of the very few people, like there's like three to five maybe people in my entire existence in my life I've met, and I've just thought you are fucking ugly. And I feel bad about that. It makes me feel like a horrible, judgmenty, horrible person. But they turned out to be a horrible person that does horrible things. So I'm like, I don't feel bad about feeling that way about you. You don't have it. You don't have this. You don't have the traumatized past to make me feel bad for you being crazy and horrible person. You're just a fucking bitch hoe cunt. Anyway, yeah, it's kind of interesting. Maybe they even do this and curse people to say this or that about people because they refuse to join their coven, so someone steals a piece of their hair, which I thought was interesting. It reminds me of when I was with my friend in Bowen and they were doing healing and someone heard about it and they're like, I don't know if I can trust it. So I was like, well, I know this person and I'm their friend anyway. And I kind of like, at this point, I had already given up a lot of friends to be friends with this person because everyone hated them. And I was like, how can you hate someone? I like talked to them about it. None of them even fucking knew it. I was like, well, how can you hate someone if you don't know them and don't see who they am? And I'm so glad I gave up my other friends for this friend because she was so worth it. But someone was like, well, oh, I don't know if they're doing a healing, if they're doing a scan, this or that, and I don't think she knew exactly what she was doing. But yeah, like someone was like, can you? I need someone to check. So I was like, okay, well, I have actually secretly practiced healing since I was a child and had a natural affinity for it and already knew it. So I learnt about their ways of healing. I wasn't doing any of it because I was just doing the way that I knew it and had learnt it. But I was like, yes, yes, no, no, don't do that. Do this, which was kind of interesting. Um, yeah, and she was pretty cool and amazing person. I fucking love that girl, which was interesting. Um, and yeah, there was someone in that certain point of there who refused to look into people's eyes because when they look into people's eyes, someone can see their own soul, and when this person sees their own soul, the person that looks into their eyes, not saying it's me, can also see into their soul and they can see something about them, but they can see that just by being around them as well. And sometimes when they look into people's eyes, they can see how they're born and how they're going to die, and it's so sad. Like a lot of people in this person's visions, a lot of people would end up dying by like a massive wave or water, some of them by like a light or a car light or a light, or some of them by darkness, which was somehow like the main ones. A few of those people died by like a lot of cuts and blood as well, which was horrible. And then some people you just can't see it because they just have like this peaceful ending situation thing, which was interesting. But yeah, okay. When you know your own worth, no one can make you feel worthless. This reminds me, and it's so relevant, especially talking about my friend. She is amazing, and I don't think she knew her own worth. And she had some pretty situations that came from some pretty shitty situations. I don't know if I believe all the stuff people were saying about her being a liar. And even if she did end up being in a few situations and being a little bit of a liar, I think people pushed her to that point and made her feel that way. And it's like the people's results, not just because she is that way. And in that situation, I would give her time to heal and grow and admit her mistakes and do this or that because she made mistakes. I've made mistakes too. But, I do trust this person. Like they were even doing this thing, which is like let's do a thing, which is kind of like a holding hands energy thing. Let's go, um, from me to you, now you to me, now me to you, now me to you, now back to me. And I was like, that's an energy swap, right? But I didn't tell her that. I was like, don't do that shit. It's just like you go into the field and you hold hands and me, you, back me, you. That's like switching energy and transferring energy, and I don't think that's okay or should be done, especially if someone doesn't know what they're doing. Okay, so in this one, for the reading to do with, I don't even know what this reading's about, we've got Fernia, clarity, the Morrigan, taking action, and the Pendragon, pure male energy or pure male magic to do with these situations, which I think is kind of interesting. Okay, so from this deck, I'm kind of feeling another card. Not that one, not that one. I can't get either of these cards, but oh, it feels like the front card now somehow. Anyway. Okay, so we've got Eight of Air in reverse, an illusion being trapped, a lack of self-confidence, afraid to take action. So someone believes they are free. Someone who has confidence right now, and someone who's not scared to take action. Okay, so if I remember right to do with this deck, um, let's see. I can't remember which one represents which suit in this deck, but we have, I think fire is staves, water is cups, air is sword, and earth is pentacles in this. And then we've got the king of earth, someone who is generous, professional, responsible, and practical. A successful time. This is the one I just read. I don't know if I showed it. Um, confidently accept opportunities you're offered. The Myad's touch, which is interesting. Okay, and then we've got the Eight of Earth. Skilled work is rewarded. Learning all there is to know about a topic and going back to school. Going back to school? I go back to school next week from my week off, funny enough, but maybe going back to student school. And then we have the world in reverse, Archangel Michael. A job well done, joy, celebration, contentment, gratitude, and a path towards enlightenment, but this is in reverse. So something is not a job very well done. Someone is not content or happy with the situation and not gracious. Um, someone is on a path towards like worsening themselves or others around them. I feel like I should read more into these, but I probably shouldn't. I'm gonna read the Eight of Air and none of the others because this video is about to take fucking like too long. You didn't. It's in reverse. So someone who needs to stay in a current situation, if they're happy with it. There is possibly no way out of a certain situation. There is a single opportunity presenting itself to someone. Um, someone who needs to not be overconfident in their abilities. Belief in the support around them and the support and help they are offered. Someone who is having negative thoughts. Someone who is meeting or seeing something that will imprison them. Now, let's see. Okay, I'm getting a single. Oh no, I'm getting another one now. I'm getting two cards from this. We have the Three and the Six of Cups. I'm getting something is going to happen two times. Okay, so we have people knowing each other or hanging out. Maybe one in a golden or an orange dress or something to do with golden or orange. Dressing up, and the other is in like a shirt. Three people hanging out, just drinking wine, chilling when they were younger to do with something, a situation, just casually. Um, Okay, I'm getting a proposal or an offer to do with someone or these people. Present, there is pollution in the background, like there's an unnatural pollution situation happening in the background to do with something or a situation. Let's see, what are the actual meanings of these cards? Is three represent, is it three or five that represents a loss? Okay, so we've got a pleasure, marriage, joy, birth, feasting, merriment, celebration, abundance, fortune. So I'm getting there was like a celebration, or people were enjoying or feeling fulfilled and enjoying the company of each other in the past. Um, a happy gathering of people, that could have resulted in a pregnancy or a marriage proposal or a successful creative endeavor, something close to your heart. Someone who should be proud of what they achieve or what they brought together. Joy is caused by celebration. Um, a time to share a good fortune with others, a bountiful. I'm seeing like a literal chest with gold in it. Oh, there's heart in the chest. What the fuck? Anyway, renewed faith in the power of love. I'm seeing a heart wrapped in twine or a red string right now for some reason. Okay, so we've got for this other futurist one, we've got a calm, serene, acceptingly simple prosa, nostalgia. Old friends. Oh, so old friends are gonna meet back up. Maybe one of them's gonna give you another one a gift. A new hope or a beginning or an opportunity. Uh, calm after emotional storms. Things might not be perfect or might not have worked out. But someone's gonna learn the truth or learn to accept something and someone's limitations and boundaries soon. A new appreciation of each other or certain things to do with situations. Um, the closed door and what it meant, whom you see and what you share with what you know. Benefits, the benefits that may come will be focused or start to do with the situation. An inhalation or an innovation. Inhalation, is that a vape or a breathalyzer? Re-enter a happy new life, a new birth, a new hope. Am I seeing a new demon? Probably not. Someone who's happy with what they have become. A fresh opportunity. I'm also seeing the spice oregano, which I don't know because that's weird because I don't usually see things like that as often. Um, a new lease or a new phase, or it could be literally like a new lease on a new house. Um, a woman smiling, someone holding some flowers, a new friendship or a new blossom, maybe a cherry tree blossom. Um, I hope in the future will be renowned. A literal smiley face. I hope it's not like the evolution movie, but a smiley face. Scary. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Oh god, which book did I read from before? I don't know which book I read from. I'm just gonna. Let's see, I didn't do this page. You're invited to unpack the structures of oppression seeping into your self image. It's kind of interesting. I'm reading one of these again anyway. Who gives a flying fuck monkey balls? Okay, the best is yet to come. Interesting. I fucking love these books, man. I've said this a million times. I'm supposed to reference my cards every time because I'm learning about academic integrity at school, which I kind of suck at, by the way, because I thought I knew it, but I don't. That's probably my like severely in my allegedly. Some people say it could be from the fact I used to smoke weed, but this mainly started up with abuse in the head. Like my fact that I've got apparently I forgot about this, but apparently I've got like a severely impacted memory or severely impacted memory capacity, or maybe it's like the memories that I remember or memory capacity, which is weird because I find in situations my siblings say my siblings say that I remember something right and remember something wrong, and I get it wrong all the time. But they'll also get it right when they remember it right, or it suits this situation. But when I put all the stories together, between the three or four siblings, I put it together, and I get like 25% of each story's right, meaning to each sibling, I get one story right. The story to the point that when you add it up, I get 100% of the stories right. But then apparently I get so many of them wrong with other people too, so I'm not sure. And then I have like a moderately impacted attention. Like some of this originally started when I was getting hit in the head with a hammer by my stepfather to make me forget things, or when I was getting beaten by my ex in the head sometimes because they were attacking me from behind, and I was just too depressed to fight back because I was just so sad. Um, but like it was just sucky because I could literally like when I got had enough of them abusing me and beating me up, I just like hit them back and I left a fucking bruise and they cried and said I was abusive, but like they had hit me in the head so many times it possibly led to my memory problems now. Could be they're saying I have an impacted ability to remember things, not to retain information or memories. I forgot about this. I forgot that I had a severely impacted memory capacity, which is interesting, but yeah, it explains a lot about why I forget things, because I always feel like a horrible person forgetting things, but it turns out there was a reason. Anyway, that's all. Ooh, I want to do this thing. And again, I say this a bunch of times on these videos someone might never watch, maybe not even tie dye, but it's like if you see someone and someone is psychic or appears to be psychic, don't expect them to be capable of everything on what you want. They're not going to be what you want, they're going to be what you need. Don't expect them to know everything because someone might even be seeing tests. If you're putting a test out there and someone sees that, then all that person's energy or ability to see might just be seeing people doing tests. So unless you're looking for someone to help you cheat in high school, I don't think it's going to be good or relevant to test someone all the time and get it based on a test. But like someone might not be capable of finding things when they can't because they're just born with what they're born with, as they're created to be, or this or that. Someone might see more, someone might see less. Um, yeah, they're only going to see what they're capable of seeing. Like, this was something that also appeared in a show Wednesday, which I fucking love, but I've been telling people about this for years. Like, beings of foresight, psychic beings, they only see certain things, what they are supposed to see, and they won't see anything else. That's like what they're supposed to see. They won't see other categories or anything else. Just their thing, because they're not supposed to be created with too much power to see too many things, which is interesting. I think. Okay. Anyway, love, peace, light. Have a nice day or night. Bye.